The Democrat Party would rather trash Americans than trash the perpetrators of the hate overseas. Joe Biden would rather trash tens of millions of Americans as extremist, radical, MAGA Republicans. He doesn't talk about that way to the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran. He only says those things about Republicans. Now, it's interesting. They tried to break through the White House gate. I mean, they were climbing the gate. They did great destruction to our monuments, to our property on Lafayette Park, and they weren't peaceful protesters. You know how many have been arrested? None. Not one. January 6 protesters who were not violent, those who were not violent, charged with parading and trespassing on Capitol grounds. Or some who went into the building and didn't do anything. They were just kind of stargazing, 20 seconds, 40 seconds, and then walked out. Books been thrown at them. This is a real insurrection going on. It's going on in our streets. It's violent. Jews have died. Jews are having to hide themselves. And not just Jews, people who support Jews. Righteous Gentiles, as I call them. Look at Charlie Kirk's group. Charlie Kirk's under attack as an anti-Semite. Charlie Kirk is no I'm under attack as an anti-Semite. Pretty funny, right? By the anti-Semites, mind you. But Charlie Kirk has a young staffer walk an older Jewish gentleman who was at one of their events, and his staffer is beaten by the peaceful Palestinians, of course. Beaten because he's trying to protect the older Jewish gentleman. And of course, you saw what happened in Thousand Oaks. An older Jewish guy, he's 69, 70 years old, has an Israel flag. You can't see everything behind the gasoline sign. But he's hit over the head or across the face with a bullhorn. Falls on his back, his head hits the cement, his head cracks open. There's blood all over the place, there's internal bleeding, and they take him to the hospital and he dies. The sheriff says something to the effect that we don't know everything that took place. The medical examiner said it's a homicide. Looks like they're going to charge the guy with a homicide, but they're debating whether to charge him with a hate crime. This whole hate crime stuff is interesting, too. You heard the FBI director, who's useless. He's good at giving statistics. He's not very good at doing things, unless it's monitoring you. But I'm talking about statistics. He says the Jewish people represent 2.4, I think he said million people, or 2.4% of the population of the United States. Over 60% of the hate crimes done against Jews. And I'm thinking, okay, who's doing it? What's the next logical statistic? He doesn't tell us. Who's doing it? I guarantee it's not evangelical Christians. It's not Mormons. It's not Hindus. It's not Buddhists. It's not atheists. So who exactly are going after these Jews? And they're mostly going after Orthodox Jews that have the coats, you know, and the hats and the beard and so forth, because they're obvious targets. And they live in Brooklyn. So who are committing these offenses against the Jews? And then we have the White House talk about Islamophobia. Now, I was the first to hit this. There is no Islamophobia in America. Islamophobia would be a systemic or ubiquitous effort by the citizenry to take acts of violence or acts of whatever it is against a religious community. That's not occurring in this country, except to the Jews, by the peaceful Palestinians. But there is Islamophobia, and it's horrific, as I've said here, as I've said on Fox, as I've said on radio, as I've said on a soapbox on the corner here. And what is it? Muslims are slaughtering Muslims all over the world. That's what it is. Arabs are slaughtering Arabs all over the world. The Chinese are slaughtering the Uyghurs. Russia has slaughtered its Muslims. We don't slaughter Muslims in this country. Who are the people marching in the streets? Are they rabid Jews, violent against Muslims? No. Who are the people being locked up or locking themselves up to protect themselves? Are they Muslims? No. Those are Jews. Who are the people killing free speech on our college campuses and academic freedom on our college campuses? Which religion is doing that? Which people representing which religion are doing that? Well, it's not Jews, and it's nobody else except the Islamists. What's an Islamist? Look it up. That's the name they give themselves. Islamist is somebody who believes in a caliphate. Islamist is somebody who believes in imposing their religion on everybody else. And not just their religion, their ideological terrorist approach to their religion on everybody else. So there's Islamophobia, but it's not in America. But what's interesting is this. The Democrat Party would rather trash Americans, that includes Biden and Harris and all the rest of them, than trash the perpetrators of the hate overseas. Joe Biden, even the other day after the election, would rather trash tens of millions of Americans as extremist, radical, MAGA Republicans. He doesn't talk about that way to the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran. He doesn't talk about that way with the Palestinian Liberation Organization and Abbas, who was a terrorist in 1972. He was the strategist. He was the funder of the slaughter of the Jews at the Munich Olympics. He did that. He's the moderate. He's the moderate. At least he's not Hamas, you know. But he's all those things. He doesn't say those things about Hezbollah. He only says those things about Republicans. And I'm tired of these people trashing Americans. This is a great country. And people need to assimilate into this country rather than we assimilate into their culture. They came here. We didn't go there. And soon there'll be nothing left to assimilate into because they're destroying our culture.
For more, sign up for Levin TV.